Alright, another video of mistakes I've made dealing. Few not that severe, a few, yeah, definitely were. For one, threw another card off the table. You know, it happens usually when I'm dealing righty and throw the card to the 1 seat. Because my deckhand is in the way, so I'm taking the card off with my right and then throwing it right back to like where it was. So take the card off, then I'm throwing it right back there. And sometimes that card will like collide with my hand or wrist or the deck, and sometimes come close to flipping, sometimes flip, sometimes get off the table. So yeah, I threw a card off the table. That's the first thing. Second thing, let me check my list again. Second thing, okay, so this, I don't know if you call this a mistake if you want. There was a hand in a tournament. So the tournament stacks are pretty shallow most of the time, especially because I was there early, never really dealing the late stages of a tournament. Last year I dealt a PLO tournament, the final table. I dealt the last hand. Didn't come close to dealing a final table this year. But, so early in these PLO tournaments at Orleans, stacks are shallow. So it got to a river where it was like bet, raise pot, and then raise pot again. If you're calling, you're all in at that point. No one stacked. There were two other players left in the hand. No one stack was like anywhere close to deep enough for the exact amount to matter. So instead of like using up all the time I needed to calculate exactly, I got pretty close and just said about 33,000. And like a couple of people kind of looked at me like I wasn't done calculating or I was going to come back with the exact number. I mean, one player of the two left to act, one player started the river with like 10,000 and the other started the river with like 15, and both of them had put money in already. So I thought saying about 33 was like avoiding wasting time and giving everyone the information necessary. And the guy who was raising slid out 33, and I mean, if he's only slid out like 22, it didn't matter. He had the other players covered. So I don't know, you call that a mistake if you want, but I thought it was best to save some time. Now, there was a time in a double board game in Planet Hollywood where I did get the number wrong. This is the cigar from Gus, by the way. He gave me two. Smoked one in Tom's backyard while I was lifting weights and answering questions that Herbs and Rye was reading. This is the second one. Thanks, Gus. There was a big pot in a double board game at PH, and at the 1 seat when it got to him, he asked me, you know, he said pot or all in, and yeah, I was way off. I think the number was actually 635, but I said like 425. It didn't matter much. He had about like 440, so he just slid out all in, and I think I said 425. And then the next person, just because it was a big bet, was thinking for a while. Before that next player was done thinking, before that next player acted, I realized I was way off and said, oh no, it's like 635, and just whatever. He was all in. If it were actually 425, he needs to take whatever, like 15 chips back. He can't go all in. He can only make it 425. But I realized before the next player acted, it was over 600, and then he was just all in, and the other players had about the same, so it didn't matter that much. But I was way off on the number that one time. These last two really affected the action. One, I really don't know how it was my fault. That's the last one. This one, still kind of close. I guess I'll accept the blame for it, but I'll tell you in a second. Don't want this cigar to go out. So there was a guy at the table who, by the way, looked and sounded like Larry Jones. Now, you probably call him Chipper Jones, but his given first name is Lawrence Larry. So action was on this guy on the turn, and I didn't hear him say anything. The first player had checked. It was heads up on the turn. First player had checked. Action's on him, and he's in the 5 seat, just very slightly off center from the table, like one of the closest seats to me. I don't need to turn my neck to look in his direction. Like, I heard him say nothing and saw him tap the table. So I burn and go to the river. And after the river card comes out, the 1 seat says, no, he went all in. I mean, if the one seat heard it, who's like just as far away from me, okay. I didn't hear it, and I guess that tap was just like an involuntary reflex after the guy had decided to go all in and announced it. I didn't hear a word, and I was like listening for it and didn't hear it, but okay. We called the floor over, and you know, I know the procedure, but you got to call the floor over. If it's solace to anyone, it didn't change anything. The player was all in. That didn't change. We waited for the action to complete on the turn. The one seat called, and then you know, reshuffle that card back into the deck. It may or may not come back as the river card. Turns out the one seat was ahead, and he couldn't lose. The 5 seat was drawing dead, so that card didn't change anything. Although I didn't know that, but that was an odd one. Had he not tapped the table, I would have just not thought action was complete, and then, you know, eventually he would have slid out his chips, I guess, and then I would have realized he went all in. That was an odd one that I didn't hear, but other people at the table did. So there's that one. Fortunately, no one got mad, and the river card didn't change anything. This last one was very odd, though. 10 p.m. tournament. I think it was the final table. It's either the final table or the final 2 tables. Big blind was 8,000. The 2 seat is first to act pre-flop. He calls 8,000. Bunch of people fold. The 8 seat raises to 16,000. He was on the button. So the 9 seat is the small blind. He folds. The 1 seat is the big blind. He folds. And then the 2 seat throws out some chips, and it's 19,000 total, which is only a legal bet if it's all in. I look back to like close to the rail where his chips would be if he had more. I don't see any chips. So I say that's an all in bet. And I do that on purpose. I don't like when people just say the word all in, because it's like quick and it could sound like something else, or people could easily miss it. I make sure to be verbose so that it's difficult to misunderstand what's going on. Sometimes I say that's an all in bet. Sometimes I say player is all in. Sometimes I say all in announced. Like, I make sure to say more than one word so people at the table understand what's going on. So I said that's an all in bet, and I take the all in button and put it out in front of these 19,000 chips. 2 seat says nothing. So then I look to the 8 seat, and he throws out 3,000 more, and then I say all in and call, betting is done. I need to see all the cards before I can run it out. The 2 seat flips over his cards. The 8 seat flips over his cards. Well, when the 2 seat moves his hand to flip over his cards, now I see he has like 30,000 in chips behind. He's not all in. The 8 seat I knew wasn't all in, but like he has like 40,000 chips behind also. So this is a really weird scenario, and I mean, I was the one dealing when this happened. I don't understand how this is my fault, though. The 2 seat could have stopped me when I said that's an all-in bet. He didn't. The 2 seat could have stopped me when I put the all-in button in front of his chips. He didn't. The 2 seat could have stopped me when I said all in and call, the action is done. He didn't. The 2 seat could have refused to turn his cards over when I say I need to see all the cards before I could run it out. No one said a word during any of this. So once I saw he had more chips, I called the floor, and yeah, like, I don't know what else you could do. The floor said, all right, like, there's no more betting, so we're just going to run it out, and the winner wins these chips, even though both of you have chips behind. There's no more betting in this hand. It's not a misdeal, but there's no more betting in this hand. So ran it out. I don't remember who won, but the winner got those chips. That was a very strange one. I guess, you know, in the previous one, if the 1 seat heard Larry Jones say all in, I guess I should have heard it. I have no problem taking the blame on that one. This one, I really don't know what else I could have done to avoid what happened. And no one was mad, though. The 2 seat wasn't mad that, like, there was no more betting, or like I didn't see his chips behind. The 8 seat wasn't mad either. Yeah, no one got irate. No one like started like pointing fingers and blaming people. It was just very, very odd that I did all those things to try to prevent exactly what happened, and then it happened. And so yeah, that was a strange one. But there you go. Mistakes I made while dealing. Second one of the summer. And yeah, a lot of small things happen. Sometimes I tell someone, you know, it's on you, and it's not. I'm like motioning towards the wrong person. Sometimes you know, I give back someone like 500 change and I only meant to throw back like 400, and I see it as soon as I throw it, or like the player sees it. A lot of small things happen. I try to pick out the bigger, more entertaining things for these videos, but there you go. I think it was 5 mistakes. If you count that last one as my mistake, 4 or 5 mistakes in this video. This is how big the cigar is right now, and in the next video from here on the roof, you'll see how big the cigar is. Should be smaller.